So today I have Craig with us, who focuses on taking a very data-driven approach, which focuses on product design. He has also been an experienced CDO. Some of his career highlights includes plus 12 years of experience when it comes to data and analytics. He has had 22 years of experience of helping startups flourish and continue to grow. Let's welcome Craig on 10 Minutes of Hiring Wisdom, where he will tell us about how has his experience been, what he has learned throughout his journey, and what we could learn from him. Hi, Craig. How are you doing today?
I'm very good, thank you, and appreciate the time and opportunity to speak to your audience, and excited about our time.
Of course. Thank you so much, Craig. So, Craig, can you guide us through your journey, where you currently are, but maybe guide us through some of the milestones that have happened in your career?
Yeah, the highlights of my career have been in technology. So I've been a technologist for a long time, starting with Apple Computer. I was actually a technology evangelist, interesting title, and went on from there to launch the Mac consumer and entertainment market, actually the Mac gaming market, and you can see what that's become. I've been involved in software and hardware and different product development. And about 10 years ago, I got involved in data and data analytics. So I built a couple of global data platforms. I've also been a venture partner and an angel investor, and I've looked at over 3,000 startups in my career and vetted them for various levels of ability to be investable. And so I joined Fundify a couple of years ago as COO and as the EVP of data to help to create this new cool platform, this portal we have called Fundify.com that enables startups to be invested in by retail investors. So it's not just for the wealthy accredited high net worth investors anymore. Anybody can have access to startups. So it's really exciting. And the one thing I've told every one of my business partners over the course of time is that hiring is the single most important thing we do, more important than product or service or anything else, because if you don't hire well, then you can't execute. And execution is the key component success metric that we're looking to do. So
That makes sense. That makes sense. So, how do you hire well is the question then for you. How do you make sure that you find the right talent for your company to grow, to flourish? So, how do you make sure that the people that you interview, the people that join your company, are the right fit at the end of the day?
yeah, it's a great question. It's foundational. And so it starts with an intentional mindset. This is my experience of doing so. And that starts way upstream by looking at what the organization, whether it's a startup or a functional unit in a Fortune 100, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? What are you tasked with? And then do you have the right people and the right skill set and the right experience to make that happen? And part of this goes to organizational design and development. That's a long phrase, but it just simply means you have a roadmap for who you need to hire and what positions that they're going to do. Now, once you've defined that roadmap and you've got some buy-in around it, then it's key to take a look at the specific requirements for each role. Oftentimes, people will just copy and paste job descriptions from the internet or whatever. My approach and what's been very successful in my experience is very carefully write out the job description and make sure that it reflects the overall goals of the org design, as well as what particular people will be able to explore over the course of being employed in your organization. So those are really key. Intentionality is the key.
That makes sense. And I love the holistic approach that you take towards making sure that the job description actually reflects the person that you're looking for. So, okay, that would be one step. How, when you actually, for example, if someone applies to your company, to your organization, for instance, how do you assess them when they're interviewing? Because I mean, yes, the resume, the cover letter is one thing, but how would you assess someone who's sitting in front of you, who you're interviewing, based on their non-behavioral cues, based on their behavioral cues, and what would make them a strong candidate according to you?
The challenge with the interviewing process now is the new normal of remote. And so it's very seldom that I get to experience a person face to face over a cup of coffee or a meal. And so it's really important to look at other factors because people look really good on paper, I found in the past. And then when you start talking to them or check their references, or things aren't quite what they appear. And that's okay. We all want to put our best foot forward. And I respect that. But part of the process is I have a very specific set of questions that I go down and I'll be happy to share that with you. The first thing I do is I do something called connect the dots. How did we meet? How do we arrive at this interview today? It may be I'm the final interview in a series that my team has put together some candidates and they want me to interview and see if my final thought and approval. And so I'll connect the dots with the people that they may have already spoken to, or if it's organic, or something else. But I want them to feel like I know where they're coming from and who they are. The second thing is I ask them to take a look at that carefully created job description, which if my colleagues have already interviewed, they've made notes in and I've reviewed. But how does their background and experience map to the requirements of the job description? So give me specific examples of what you've done or what you've experienced or your background, education, whatever that maps to that. And so those are the first two things I talk about. The third thing is key. And I learned this from a podcast or a book actually from a gentleman named Lou Alder. And he says, this is a great question. I love this question.
Is
I
this
ask people,
is it Lewis S. Alder?
yes. And
I am
yes,
going to
he's
have
a
him as
thought
a
leader,
guest
right?
soon. Yes, I'm gonna be having him
Oh,
as a
is he?
guest
So
soon. So I'm excited.
tell
Yes.
him that I tell him that he's already got a reputation out there and that other people are using. Here's the key, and he'll probably say the same thing. Tell me, and if I was interviewing you, I would say, tell me your proudest accomplishment. Okay. What is it in your professional career that you're proudest of? Now, what happens, it's really good because people tend to talk about what they've done and the impact of what they've done. And it also gives you a sense of their own perception about their value to prior organizations. So it's a really calibrating question. What I've heard, and back at Apple, I did some training. Like, when's the last time you got trained in hiring? Most people don't get trained, right? At Apple, they actually had a formal course I went through, and I remember my principals back then. And one of the things that they said was, uh, be sure and ask people what they did individually. Oftentimes I hear, we did this, team did that. I'm like, yes, but what did you do? I need to hear more I's. I did this, I did that. And I'm looking for numbers. I'm looking for percentage increases of revenue or money saved or products developed or customers secured, those type of things. Super important. And so that's the third question I ask. It's connect the dots, then match your background experience to the job description, then what is your proudest accomplishment? That whole conversation usually takes about 20 minutes.
I can definitely see why you would take such a thorough approach, because I think, yes, as in people usually put something else on the resume, and it makes sense because you would want to make a good impression, but then again you need to make sure that you find the right person to join your company at the end of the day, because you don't want to waste resources, money, and just go into that effort and not hire the right person for your company. So I think that would definitely help you hire the right talent for your company specifically. So love the approach, love the way you connect the dots, love the way you ask individuals about themselves, because I can definitely see why a lot of people usually laid back on their team and don't really focus on the individual effort. So thank you so much for sharing that, Craig. So Craig, can you, what the most important question would be, is your company currently hiring? What kind of roles are open? If people do reach out to me regarding your company,
Yeah,
what can I tell them about
we
open roles
are.
within your company?
Yes, we are. We're growing. This is an incredible opportunity in the regulation equity crowdfunding space. We're doing something very special. We've assembled a team and, more importantly, have built a culture with this team that is energizing. It's everybody is excited to be a part of this, and it's terrific. It's tremendous. And part of it is because how we have hired and blended this team together that has resulted in this culture. Let me just go back to one thing you mentioned, and that is, how do you know who you've hired? And so I have a secret question that I've used over the years. Would you like to know my secret weapon question? It's a great question.
Yes, please.
Okay, I asked them this question, and my premise is this: you never know who you've hired, and from the interviewee's perspective, the candidate's perspective, you never know what you're getting into for at least 6 months, right? And the cost of a mishire, industry wide, can across all industries, can be $50,000 to $75,000. So you need to get it right. So my question is this: I call it the 6 month question. Tell me something it would take me at least 6 months to get to know about you that I couldn't possibly know today or the first day. And so I say things like, it could be hobbies, habits, personality preferences, whatever comes to mind. And then I'm quiet. And that's a completely reasonable question. I hear the most interesting things, and it gives me some good insights that I would not ever, otherwise be able to get. But that's a really key question. I highly advise it. I use it in reference checks as well. But yes, we're hiring. We have some great things in different parts of our organization. So you can reach out to careers@fundify.com if you'd like more information. But anyway, last question.
Okay.
Anything else you'd like to hear?
I think as in I'm just curious regarding that specific question, your secret question. What are, as in what's the purpose of this question? What do you do with the insights and everything?
Yeah, it's great. Thanks for follow on. What I'm trying to understand is, again, what the person everybody has a pose. I mean, we have a, we have a persona that we're hoping to convey. What I'm hoping to do is get beyond that and find out who that person is beyond the work. All right. Most people have interests, passions, hobbies, things they really care about. And so what I often find is people will talk about their families, or they're a musician, or they're a painter, or they have, I was talking to a gentleman yesterday who told me that, well, I'm an avid skier and a marathon runner. And I wouldn't have necessarily known
Wow.
that. And so it just gives me a more. Now, on some occasions, I'll share one outtake. One person said, well, what you see is what you get, which is kind of a hollow answer. And I'll mercifully say, try again, right? If this person took like 1 minute, they couldn't come up with an answer. And see, that to me is also an indicator. It's a bit of a yellow flag. And so I said, listen, it's okay, no pressure, get back to me. He wrote me later that night like a 3-page email. That was clearly a person that was having trouble conveying, and it was a red flag for me. So it really helps me to hire the right people for the right roles, which is really the key to success.
That sounds absolutely wonderful. And I love that question, especially because I mean, I would never think of how it would like give you much more insights regarding a person, because of course people are much more than the work that they do. So definitely can see why you would use such a question. Well, Craig, our time is up. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing so much about your company, sharing about your experience, sharing such wonderful tips, especially about your secret questions. So I hope recruiters, hiring managers can definitely use this to find the right talent. Thank you so much, Craig, for joining us
My
today.
pleasure. My pleasure. All the best. Goodbye.